Now we are.
All right, good. Good. Welcome to the Township of Bedminster. This is our regular Township Committee meeting of August 3, 2020. It is 7 o'clock, and I will recognize that we have a full complement of the Bedminster Township Committee in attendance. Ms. Sullivan, will you please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, sir. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville, Burnasville News in Whippany, to all subscribers, and then posted here at the Municipal Building as of January 16th, 2020.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. If I don't have a flag, there's one right over here. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to
the republic for which it stands,
One
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Township Committee is so much better at doing this than the Land Use Board. So just before we start the meeting, as of today, there's 47 confirmed cases listed on the Somerset County Health Department website for Bedminster, 5 fatalities. And the latest report of a confirmed case in Bedminster was, I think, Judy, we had received that about a little over a week ago.
Yes.
And that was a report of a 23-year-old coming down with COVID-19. And certainly the vast majority of confirmed cases are in the 65 years and older. And that is not just in the county, but I believe across the state as well. The fact that a 23-year-old got it is a reminder that COVID-19 is around and that is affecting all age ranges. Once again, while the majority of confirmed cases are in those who are older, it is affecting that teens and 20-year-olds. And so just, you know, we still have to say it, use common sense, social distance, wear a mask, avoid the large crowds when you can, wash your hands. Approval of minutes. We have 2 minutes to approve the July 20, 2020 regular Township Committee meeting and the July 20 closed session meeting, also via Zoom. Any comments or questions regarding those minutes? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
We have 3 permits and raffles for tonight. First
Mayor,
one,
you are the only
raffle,
one with the
please.
updated copy. The other members don't have that.
You see the yellow,
Correct.
that's an added one. You see the other yellow, that's another added one. First one, off-premise 50-50 cash raffle to benefit St. Joseph's Hospital and Medical Center on September 8, 2020, 7 p.m. at Hamilton Farms Golf Club, 1040 Parsville Road, Bedminster, New Jersey. Then the 2 that were added, the first of the added ones is an on-premise 50-50 cash raffle to benefit the Children's Specialized Hospital Foundation on August 31, 2020 at 4 p.m. at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 811 Rattlesnake Ridge Road, Bedminster. And then there's also an on-premise merchandise raffle to benefit the Children's Specialized Hospital Foundation on August 31, 2020 at 4 p.m. at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 811 Rattlesnake Ridge Road, Bedminster. Any questions or comments regarding those raffles? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Who made the motion, Colin?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, public comments. This is the one opportunity we provide for public comments at the beginning of the meeting. Are there any members of the public that have any comments they would like to present to the Township Committee?
Currently, we do not have any members of the public on our meeting.
Ms. Sullivan, do we have any folks that have pre-registered to participate in tonight's Zoom meeting?
No, we do not.
Well, that's a problem
Yeah.
because for anyone who may be listening to this on the recording, I had asked both Chief Rock and our engineer, Paul Ferrero, to dig a little deeper into the request coming from the folks in Pottersville about speeding on Black River Road and speeding in Pottersville generally. And there was a bunch of information and assertions that were made by someone, and we wanted to make sure that they were addressed and that the request for enforcing the speed limit in Pottersville, that we paid attention to that, and also as to the request for putting in some traffic calming devices, we want to make sure that we paid appropriate consideration to that request as well. And if there was something that needed to be done, that we could then identify what might be appropriate steps. So both the chief and Paul looked into this. I know I've been on a few calls and meetings with both of them, and there was a lot of in-depth analysis. You know, so let's put it up for a quick discussion. We had set this aside to raise during public comments for tonight's meeting, but Judy, if we have no one.
Well, I have Jake Perry is joining us now, but
Okay.
Mr. Brown, who I thought was joining us, is not on yet.
Well, so why don't we skip ahead and quickly go through monthly report discussions for each subcommittee chair, and then we will come back to the Black River Road petition before we move on to the resolutions. So let's start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended a historic preservation meeting. Since our last meeting, I did raise with the folks there whether the Pluckerman Park owners and management had come in before the committee to talk about the paint job and the use of colors moving forward, and was told that although they were invited to show up, they didn't show up. So I've asked that Joe sort of lasso them in and bring them in so we can have a discussion with them about that. I didn't know, quite frankly, and I'm looking for some direction from the group here. Is it the position that we want the one building that's been painted fluorescent yellow to be repainted in a different color, or do we want to just defer to the HPC on that?
I mean, from my perspective, I would think I would defer to the HPC. I'm not aware of any other requirement other than the historic preservation approval for that area.
Okay. I share that sentiment. I just want to throw it out there to make sure that I'm not, ignoring any comments anybody might have here. So hopefully they're going to be coming in the next meeting or two. The meeting itself this past time was, I don't want to say uneventful, but it was garden variety approvals being presented. The one thing I'd like to report back that Wendy and Sean Blinn are working at putting together some more information to coordinate with the schools, especially if there's going to be a return to online learning. Figured they could, use some content to help the children learn virtually. So they're trying to put together a virtual program of some sort that would sort of school the kids on the purpose of historic pres and the role and the function that board has in our community. So more to come on that. Also with respect to DPW, the projects out on River Road and Copperthwaite are essentially done. I did speak with John briefly about the coordination issue. He said that just was the paver had a free slot and an unexpected opening to go out and pave or do striping or something out on Copperthwaite. And it was just sort of it was a glitch. It's not going to happen again, I'm assured. But the work that's been going on out there in the western part of the township is sort of delayed a bit of some of the usual things that see in town. So he's just asked to be a bit flexible in terms of he's aware of the hike and bike path between Burnt Mills and the extension there that's got to have some cleaning out. And he's going to be doing that, but it just hasn't had a chance to get around to it. The Pluckerman Schoolhouse Park on Burnt Mills there, that's got a top coat. It's waiting a top coat. The base coat has been paved. The parking lot there for the old school, that's been done. We're just waiting for a top coat, and we're hoping to do that at the same time as they do the school. And then the last piece of that puzzle will just be to grade out some of that back area back towards 287 and put some hay and some seed in. So he's aware of that, and that's going to be proceeding in the near term.
Great. Hey, Doug, I got a quick question. Maybe Paul can also address this. There's that one or maybe two buildings in Pluckman that completely overgrown, falling apart. I'm not sure if there's any action that.
If I can interject, I spoke with Joe
Sure,
Haggerty
please.
about this today. Just maybe anticipating a question about them. Yes, they are overgrown. We have reached out to the property owner with two different letters. But one certified, one regular mail. Both have been returned undeliverable. We're going with the addresses we have in the tax records. So we're hoping another set of letters were sent out. We're hoping, we're able to make contact to let them know they've been notified in those letters of violations, and if it's not correct, the summonses are to be issued. So I'm having
Well,
difficulty
if I bring this
contacting
back to Doug because of the ordinance we had passed.
them. Right, because of the
Does,
ordinance we did in December.
Yeah, does that provide an opportunity for the township to take action and then put a lien on the property for those expenses?
I think
I
the
think we need
answer
to get in
is,
touch with them and give them a chance first, so.
But
You know
that's two letters that went out?
yeah, and I was going to say, can we cross-check on the taxes? I mean, if they're paying the taxes, let's see who's paying them and see where that address is.
And that's where we sent them, but they were returned undeliverable. So we're working on it.
Okay. We may have to publish.
Look, that property is in bad condition, getting worse. I would, maybe it's something that John Blardo, you can look into, but I would take the position we should not wait.
No, they could contact me tomorrow, Mayor. As the mayor is aware, I drove by those two properties it was either Saturday or Sunday, and they were in such horrid shape that I had sent an email to the mayor and said, aren't we following through with the new ordinance that we adopted? Because they really do stick out like a sore thumb after some of the other properties have been fixed up there.
And also the second issue I would raise, and once again, I'm not sure if this is a historic pres, but that building that has Habitat for Humanity offices coming on it, it's been covered in scaffolding for what seems like 10 months, and I have not seen much action out there. So once again, not sure if this is a Joe issue or Paul, maybe if there's any action or intended action at that property, once again, in Pluckerman.
I'm not aware of anything planned for the property. Frankly, I don't know which one it is, but I will review it with Joe on Thursday.
Okay. Judy, are you aware of anything out there?
Yeah, that's where Bedminster real estate was. It's the church property in front, Paul, of the church. Got all scaffolding. They're redoing the whole place, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't recall having seen a change of tenancy for that, but like I said, I'll review it with Joe on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, I walk by there all the time. I never see anybody on there. The scaffolding is just up.
Doug, anything else?
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
You almost called me Stevenson. That's
I
okay.
did,
He's so
I
good. He
did.
gets twice the billing.
I know.
Just a couple updates. I know Gina has some rec updates. I'll give some rec updates. Our morning flagship program, Camp Bedminster, is winding down this week. We went from 7 weeks to 5 weeks due to the COVID pandemic. We've had about registrations that ended up being about half of what we'd normally expect, but it was still a very successful program. Our afternoon 1 week mini camps, they were strong. Their numbers were comparable to years past. Those wrap up next week, August 14th. Just want to give a hats off to Robin Ray. She pulled off the darn near impossible because she had about 3 weeks to plan once the governor released the guidance for summer camp. She did a tremendous job. And also want to recognize Mr. Peter Chesson, who once again donated the buses for Camp Bedminster to support some of the programming, some of the transportation back and forth to some of the local parks. There were 2 brand new buses with air conditioning, so a huge thank you to him. Just note, there will be no after school or weekend programming at the school until at least December 31st. Robin is working on some creative alternate programming, so stay tuned on that. One of the things the rec committee is working on, and we'll hear more about this in the future, is an outdoor basketball league. We're looking to do that at Somerset Hills level for grades 4 through 8, leveraging obviously the newly redone Puckman Schoolhouse Park. She's also been coordinating with the new rec director in Bernardsville. So provided that we can do that according to state guidance, we hope to kick that off as at least an alternative to some of the programs that obviously we'd run normally in the gym this fall. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Hey, Colin, did you say till December 31st?
December 31st, correct. No after school programs.
No rec, like sports or anything?
Exactly.
Ah, okay.
So
Yep.
we're trying to come up with a plan B for basketball.
Right.
Okay.
And obviously, if we can leverage the courts, do it outside, whatever we can do, we'll do.
Okay.
So Colin, that's reporting from the school? So
Yes.
the school's taking the position, no after-school programming.
Yes, correct. At least that's the understanding that Robin has after talking with him on a number of occasions.
Okay.
That I don't think that precludes their aftercare program, but I don't know. I can't speak to that.
Right, or the before-school program as well.
Right. This is
I
just
just
a wet
want
program.
to, can I interject real quick? Sorry, it's no programming after 6:30 p.m. That's what it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Good job, Gina. All right, Colin, anything else?
That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, Renee.
Thank
Committee
you,
Woman
Mayor.
Mareski.
Hi, American. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Joe.
He's doing dinner. I have nothing this week for anybody.
Okay.
Thanks.
Committee Woman Fernandez.
Okay. Making sure I'm off mute. Okay, hi everyone. I have a few updates. I wanted to I'll kind of backpack on Colin's rec update. We're very excited to announce that our rec committee and Robin Ray, our rec director, are pulling together to host an outdoor drive-in movie night on August 27th. So hopefully anyone listening in, save the date. And we are currently seeking sponsors. The rec committee is reaching out to sponsors to help offset the cost of the drive-in theater so that there will be little or no cost to people who are attending. We don't know the movie just yet, but the details will be coming forth shortly. In addition, we will also be having a grand reopening of Pluckaman Schoolhouse Park, to be determined, the date and the time, but we will be having something come September. So I just wanted to let everybody know that as well. And I wanted to update everyone regarding Fall Fest, Bedminster Charities Fall Fest. So they were going back and forth, the committee for Bedminster Charities. We wanted to be able to donate money to the charities that benefit from Fall Fest, but did not want to have a ginormous event given the current pandemic. And nobody knows what fall is going to look like. So they've decided to go in the direction of a Halloween type event where each of the charities will then run a different part of perhaps a haunted trail. So each charity would run a scare spot or an event like a pumpkin carving contest where you would carve the pumpkins ahead of time, and then people could walk through and judge them. And they will also are looking at possible food truck appearance and possible entertainment, and definitely 50-50. So it's still in the works, but that's the update I have as far as the direction we're going in for Fall Fest, that there will be a Fall Fest, but it won't be like the typical Fall Fest that we have every year. And it will be Halloween themed, since we're, assuming that Halloween this year is not going to be, door-to-door trick-or-treating. And since there's no events at the school after 6:30 p.m., there probably most likely won't be events for families at the school either. So that's the direction that Fall Fest is going this year. I'll keep you updated as I hear more. And that's all.
So Gina, what does that mean? What will be retained from Fall Fest?
What will remain from Fall Fest? There will be a 50-50. They're not sure if there will be a silent auction, and there will be a Halloween themed type of event. So there will be an event, but it will have to be socially distanced and kind of controlled. So they were thinking something like a haunted trail, like they've had the Pass Through the Wreck, where families could each stop at a scare spot, and kind of you're with your group and you stay with your group. And then at the end, there's perhaps, like I said, maybe some entertainment as far as a band playing, or a food truck or something like that.
But no, the vendors and anyone else who's doing displays, that would not be.
So perhaps
Yeah.
signage for sponsorship. There will be like a letter campaign for sponsorship, and perhaps signage for sponsorship. But that is correct. As far as they've been discussing thus far, there will be no vendors set up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Judy, it looks like you were about to.
Yes,
say
feel
something?
free, Judy.
Yeah, the idea is maybe to move the location to Miller Lane, and have maybe just a few food trucks, 2, maybe 3, maybe just some local entertainment. If we have entertainment, a smaller event.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Smaller scale.
All right.
And that's the Fall Fest committee update and the rec committee update, and that's all I have for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll report from Land Use Board. There was no meetings from Land Use Board since the last time we met, but Land Use Board will be meeting both this week and next week. This week there'll be the relocate matter will be heard by the Land Use Board sitting as a Board of Adjustment. So Committeeman Hickey and I will not be participating. And then the following week, Bedminster Farms does come back for its planning board application for its project on Lamington Road. Also at this Land Use Board meeting coming up this week, there will be a presentation. I believe Tom Collins will probably do the presentation of master plan analysis, looking at some of the issues the Master Plan Committee has been contemplating, which includes satisfaction of the affordable housing obligation on Bedminster from the court order that Mr. Bilardo negotiated with. And we've got a time frame for July 21 to come up with some additional affordable housing units, and that will be part of the affordable housing discussion, the master plan discussion this Thursday. Farmers Market, another great weekend at the Farmers Market. Committeeman Hickey, what was your final count?
Sorry, Mayor, I was muted. 816.
816. So it was a beautiful sunny day, a little warm, but 816, which is interesting because that was over 100 from the prior week. So, but all accounts, Farmers Market going robust, and everyone in attendance, everyone participating as a volunteer, everyone participating as a vendor is masked up, socially distancing, and taking full advantage of the sanitizing or the sanitizing stations that we have set up across the farmers market. So once again, just very proud of the way that the farmers market has been operating this summer so far. With that, we do have Jake. So Jake, you missed public comment, but if you were following the prior meetings with the petition from Black River Road, where the folks were requesting enforcement and saying that there was not adequate control of speeding in Pottersville, particularly on Black River Road. And the request was for not just additional enforcement, but also for physical traffic calming techniques to be employed to help reduce the speeding issue. So Jake, once again, I'd ask the chief and Paul Ferrero to take a look at the data to see, A, is there a speeding issue? And if there is a speeding issue from the engineering side, what would be appropriate traffic calming techniques? We were hoping to get Mr. Brown and some other residents participating in tonight's meeting, but since they're not here, Jake, you are our public, and since the chief and Paul put a fair amount of work into it, we're not going to let that go to waste. They're both here. So Judy, before we get to administrator's report, Chief Rock and Paul, do you want to take it from here?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, maybe I'll start. The chief and I have discussed this at some length. Just as a bit of background, what the chief has done is, as you're aware, he's had a electronic speed sign out there that not only advises drivers how fast they're going, it also records each vehicle and how fast it's going. So there's a couple of interesting things about that. These signs are typical of most of these signs. They are set, so there is, if you go above a certain speed, nothing is displayed. So you don't have the teenager trying to set the speed record on the sign. For example, the ones that we have in the chief set up on Black River Road max out at a display speed of 50 miles an hour. So that if somebody were going greater than 50 miles an hour, nothing would be displayed, but the speed would be recorded. So that's one bit of information that I can give. The next is I did an analysis of the numbers that the chief had. And what I found very interesting is between May, June, and July, when the signs were out there, we know that we have a posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour. Depending on the month and the direction, the difference from the posted limit to the average speed was between 1 and 3 miles an hour. The highest average speed was 28 miles an hour, which in my opinion is not indicative of a speeding problem. Certainly people do speed, and it happens, and people do it on every road. But the predominant issue here is that the speed limits are not high. So I don't think, frankly, there is a speed problem. I know that there's been a perception that perhaps the speeding is less prevalent in P-PAC Gladstone because there's so much better on enforcement. To that end, I asked the chief to see if he gets some information from the P-PAC Gladstone speed signs. And it's not an indication of how one department works versus another department at all. But I think it's interesting to know that on the Bedminster signs, there are about 25% of the people who are traveling at or below the speed limit. In P-PAC Gladstone, there were 0 people traveling at or below the speed limit. So there's sometimes a perception of one thing being better or worse than something else. The fact of the matter is these signs record information that are very useful. The other thing it showed was that the 85th percentile speeds in P-PAC Gladstone were over 5 miles an hour greater than the posted limit, where in Bedminster, it was about 3 miles an hour faster. So again, both of those are indicators that there really is not a speed limit issue in my mind, or a speeding issue. Let's talk for a minute about traffic calming devices that could be used in any location. The first one that I heard mentioned was rumble strips. Everybody's familiar with what rumble strips are. You go over them as you go along, as you approach some exit ramps on Route 80, some toll booths on interstates. There are even some on Lamington Road. The important thing about rumble strips is to understand their application. They are not used for speed control. Their purpose is to advise drivers of an unexpected condition in the roadway that they normally would not foresee. In the example of Lamington Road, we have kind of a dog-leg bend in the road that isn't really expected if you're driving down that long, straight stretch of road. Same thing can be said for toll booths on interstates, and those sorts of things. So that's what they are for. They are not for speed control in any kind of a setting. Another element that could be used for speed control would be speed tables or speed humps. Those could be used. For them to be used, however, it requires that there be a finding based on an engineering analysis that there's an issue to be solved. As I said, it's my position that there isn't an issue to be solved. So I don't think the installation of speed humps in the area would be appropriate. I don't think that the speeds are excessive. I think I'd be happy if the people in front of my house only average 3 miles an hour above the speed limit. It's just the way that it is. The concept of enforcement, and we do this in zoning, and it's also done in policing, is the idea is not to use it as a fundraising tool. Enforcement, the purpose of enforcement is to get compliance with the speed limits. So that's why the measure of effectiveness is not the number of tickets that are issued. The measure of effectiveness is the average speed. In my opinion, the average speed we have here is certainly reasonable, and I don't think there's a speeding issue.
Thank you, Paul. Chief, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I do, man. I do. So to add to this discussion is the fact that I pulled motor vehicle crash data back till July 1st of 2020. So we 9 motor vehicle crashes on Black River Road. So Black Road, obviously, probably about 3.5 miles long. It's 35 miles per hour up until you get into the village of Pottersville. So in that time frame, out of the 9 crashes, 2 involved the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit zone. A car steer accident at Sackfield, and the second one was an individual just coming into the Pottersville from northbound on Black River Road. Left the roadway.
Oh, we just lost the chief, but
I can give you a summary of what he said, though, Mr. Mayor, because we talked about it before.
Do, Paul.
The 2 accidents in the 25 mile an hour zone. One was a vehicle striking a deer, and the other was someone who left the roadway and because of the soft shoulder could not recover and get back on the roadway. They were not speed related.
So let me first open it up to the Township Committee for questions and comments directed to Paul, and when it comes back to the chief.
Well, did you happen to know there was a reference to an accident involving a child getting struck by a car about 7 years ago? Have you heard anything about that? Did you see anything about that in your investigation?
I did not hear anything about it. I don't know anything about it. I've been the engineer for 30 years. I don't recall that. I don't know if I think the chief is back on, and chief, maybe if you come on with just audio and no video, it may work better. I went over the crash information, but the question from Committeeman Stevenson is about the comment about a prior accident involving a child being struck by a vehicle. The chief is on mute.
He's on mute and he took the video off.
So, you got me?
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry about this. So my electronic records go back to 2012. and I couldn't identify a motor vehicle crash on Southfield Drive. And I've worked in the agency for 25 years, and I don't recall of a situation that was outlined in the, I believe it was in the email or the petition, how we had children struck on Southfield Mount.
So is it your professional opinion that the speed signs that we have out there now are sufficient for what we're experiencing?
I mean, obviously, you know, people will speed. You know, some people speed, some people don't. I mean, you'll get some people at good speeds. You know, the safety I have with those signs, the settings on them, that you can't challenge that roadway to see how fast you can go. At 50 miles an hour, it shuts off. So even if you go at 60, anybody watching the sign will not know how fast that vehicle passed. You know, it has a strobe feature that will strobe up to, you know, starting at 30, and the strobe will shut off at 50 miles an hour. You know, the challenges of that roadway, my officers go up there frequently. You know, if we get complaints, you know, it's a structured radar detail that must be addressed on a daily basis unless there's something else going on within the town. So, you know, there's only so many places that you can set up and run radar on Black River Road. And you know as well as I do, just being driving down the road, if there's a police officer set up on the side of the road running radar, a lot of people will flash their lights. Or now we have that new app that, you know, indicates there's a police officer at a, you know, specific location. So, I mean, we're up there, we do the best we can. We're coming out of COVID, we're going back into COVID. So, you know, egregious violations were absolutely addressed, you know, since everything occurred. And well, we're doing the best. We're up there. So if I can't explain why you don't see a Bedminster police car in Pottersville. We might come in from Pottersville Road and exit Pottersville Road if we get a call.
But Chief, you did hear Paul's comments that with respect to enforcement and whether there's an enforcement situation, looking at the speed data, Paul was taking the position that there does not appear to be a speeding problem that is caught in the area where the speed signs are located. And so I just want to make sure that you agree with that from the policing standpoint.
Well, in the totality of the amount of vehicular traffic that are traveling through that roadway, the average speed speaks for, the average person driving down the road. I'll agree that there's, some speeds that are in excess, but is that a police car responding to an emergency, or is that a fire? I can't answer who's the individual, doing 53 coming into a 25 zone. We don't have cameras on it.
Hey, Chief, it's Colin. Quick question. I don't know if it's for you or for Paul. I did have a conversation with somebody who lives on Southfield. Is there a separate problem there? Because you kind of have that straightaway in Southfield before you enter turn 1 on Black River. And obviously we're monitoring the speeds on Black River Road, but at least the feedback I received was Southfield can be a bit of a speed zone before folks actually enter into Black River Road. Have you observed that? Is there anything we could do specifically there?
I mean, if anybody in the community has a problem and they think they have a speeding problem, I mean, the obvious solution is to contact the police department and explain your concerns, and we can look into it. We haven't received any complaints from the residents of Southfield Drive to indicate they have a speeding problem. I know, maybe back in 2012 when construction was going on, we might have had a problem, but without the public input, we don't see Southfield as a speeding problem, because why would you make a right to go through a residential area when you can continue straight on Black River Road and make a right at the same fashion?
I recall that it was raised at the same time that people were complaining about Robertson, and that it was a cut through to go from Black River through Southfield over to Pottersville to get up to 206.
That's what I heard as well, Doug. Yes.
I mean, you're saving 6 seconds off your commute, but that's what people were doing. So
Yep.
The people who lived there were frustrated with the constant traffic going through their street. But I didn't recall whether it was a speed issue on Southfield or just that the volume there was excessive because people were using it as a cut through.
No, I can't speak for that, sir. To me, the straighter path to get anywhere is a straight line. So if I continue straight and make a right, then I'll have to make a right and do a left-hand dogleg curve to come up to a stop sign to make a right. So I don't know who's cutting through Southfield unless Black River Road is closed between Pottersville and Southfield Drive, like commuter traffic.
And so there was, I believe at the last meeting, Mr. Brown had reference to someone doing 57. And for some reason, I think he had mentioned seeing that on the speed sign. So if that were the case, it would not express 57 since it only goes to 50. And Chief, the data from those signs, is that retrieved monthly so you can go back to when those signs were originally installed to pull all the records?
There's historical data from when the date they were turned on, December 5th of 2019. So if you want to speak to the 57 point, I understood that slightly after the signs were turned on that somebody came past at 57. So I checked the whole month of December of 19, and I went ahead and checked January of 2020, and I didn't have a high speed of 57, maximum speed on the sign going northbound. But I don't know if that was the sign we were speaking of. And, you won't be able to see 57. So unless the settings on the sign aren't right, the only way to test it, if we go up there and do 55 past it to see if it's not working and not, if it's displaying over 50. It's a valid point, but I don't think so because it's, it reports back via the cloud and 15-second intervals.
Yeah, my recollection of Mr. Brown last time was when he had said that, and then Mayor, when you indicated we were having the data pulled, he said that the 57 was from the prior year. And I know we didn't have the sign up there, but I don't think you were going to see it.
Right. Well, in discussions with some folks in other towns that have had these speed signs, the consistent word that I've heard is that those signs work, that those signs are a traffic calming element by themselves. And to some extent, I think even Mr. Brown had indicated that there was some mitigation with the installation of those signs. He was talking about other cars speeding going by. And to some extent, maybe this is a question for Paul. In your experience, what is why would there be that impression? Is it visual? Is it noise? Is it proximity to the roadway? Pottersville is an old village, lots of homes, including that home, just a few feet from the road.
It's a narrow road, and the closer you are to a large object moving quickly, the faster it seems to be moving. And it's just a perception thing where you have the vehicle go by you, and it seems like you're going fast. If you stand next to the road and a truck comes by at 25 miles an hour, you might think he's doing 35 miles an hour, and he's only doing 25. Just because it's bigger than a car.
So, one of the things that, remember Mayor Parker used to talk about, we're not in the business of having solutions looking for a problem, right? If there's a problem, we want to solve it. And to some extent, I would go so far as to say, even if there's a perception of a problem, I think we should look into it and certainly give it the appropriate consideration, which is why to some extent there's almost a twofold approach here. One is there a speeding problem in fact? And even if there is only the perception, well, is there something that could mitigate that perception issue? And when Paul went through rumble strips, the speed humps, the speed tables. And Paul, maybe you can give us just a little more color on why speed humps are, before you can install them, you have to have a demonstrated need for them. Certainly it's not an expense issue. I mean, we are not talking about big bucks to install a speed bump or speed hump or speed table of any kind. This isn't a money issue. To me, this is about a safety issue. So Paul, if you can talk about the pros and cons of those traffic calming devices.
Well, let me take a step back and answer the first question. What do I mean by it needs to have some sort of an analysis? Pretty much all traffic control devices need to be based in an engineering analysis and conclusion based on the facts that you collect. So that's why it can't all be based on a perception. It has to be based on the facts. And if the facts demonstrate that the perception is not reality, then it's hard to have an engineering justification based on that. So that's where I come from relative to the conclusion that I don't think that there is a speeding problem. And that is, you know, I will admit that is my definition of a speeding problem. If your definition of a speeding problem is if anyone goes 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, if that's a speeding problem, yes, we have a speeding problem everywhere. But I don't think that's a realistic definition in anyone's terms. But let's talk about what are a couple of the more common traffic calming devices. We're talking about rumble strips, and that's not really traffic calming for speed control. Another traffic calming device is narrowing a roadway. Well, I don't think you can get Black River Road any more narrow than it is now and have it be safe. So the design of the road, the construction of the road with the close trees and the close homes are a natural traffic calming device. And in fact, if you look at some of the literature for road diets and those sorts of things, they talk about all those, reducing setbacks, narrowing streets, and those kinds of things. So it's really a traffic calming device just by the fact that it exists. The other one that you come to are speed humps and speed tables. And really the difference is on a speed table, you have a crosswalk going through the middle of it, but they're gradual bumps in the road. And there are a couple of downsides to those where they really need to be justified in order to be able to put them in. One of the issues associated with them is obviously maintenance. They're difficult for snow removal operations. The drivers hit them all the time. It can be a problem. They're also, as far as maintenance is concerned, when they're installed properly, there's 100 feet of horizontal stripes on the road, each direction from each speed bump. And if you have them 500 feet apart, that's a lot of striping because you're going to have 100 feet of striping, a bump, 100 feet, a couple 100-foot gap, another 100 feet of striping, another bump. There'd be 4 or 5 speed humps heading through Black River Road. So it creates a visual clutter issue in some respects. So you have to be careful about applying those. There's also signage that's required. And I think finally, another issue that you have with speed humps, and I've seen them installed and then removed after a period of time, and there's a road that I drive on in Flanders all the time that had speed humps, which were removed and they were replaced with the electronic speed signs because of the noise associated with them. Every time a landscape trailer bounces over the speed hump, it makes a lot of noise. Vehicles slow down and accelerate, and there's brakes and screeching brakes and then accelerating engine noise, which particularly in an area where you're very close to the road, and this road, Main Street in Flanders, is exactly a road like Black River Road where you have many homes right on the road. The residents complained too much and those speed traffic calming devices were removed and they put the signs back in.
Paul, up in the hills, in the upper hills, certainly on the Berners Township side, there's a few of those residential streets have those speed humps in place. Do you have any experience, maybe Chief you do, from how they're viewed from the residents there or from Berners Township reps as well?
I don't have any experience on those. I don't know what the perceptions have been up there.
I don't, Mayor, but I mean, if we want to go back in time, Hills Drive used to have speed bumps.
Right.
And then the problem was people were driving in the shoulder to avoid the speed hump. And then we had a speeding problem. When they repaved Hills Drive, they removed the speed humps. And they put up, 2 electronic speed limit signs. And, the speeding complaints on Hills Drive don't really exist anymore. So I
So
can't speak for
then
Burners
you
Township.
will drive as the experience that those electronic signs were essentially better traffic calming devices than the speed bumps themselves.
I mean, you know, from the lack of complaints, I would say yes. I don't know if they're, you know, tracking data like our signs do, but between people trying to avoid the speed hump and going into the actual shoulder where people were utilizing it for recreational purposes, you know, once the speed humps went away, those you know, complaints went away too.
Paul, to your point about the if you have speed humps, you usually have the white stripes heading in either direction as you approach the speed bump or the speed hump. Do the stripes themselves, if you just did the striping, would that provide traffic calming on its own?
No, because then what you're talking about is almost like a rumble strip, but the striping for a speed hump starts at a relatively narrow width, maybe 12 inches wide, and then it gets wider and wider until it's the full lane width by the time you get up to the speed hump. So it's kind of like a triangular taper of the striping. One thing you have to watch out, those stripes are fairly wide. And when they're fairly wide, you have the problem that they can be slippery. And I've been in towns where they've requested we change striping on crosswalk methods because motorcycles and bicyclists have had issues. And that's another element of Black River Road. It is a heavy bicycle road, and the speed humps are problematic when you have a bicycle because it can't go all the way to the edge of the pavement with the bicycle. And in Black River Road, if we get narrow, then you're going to end up with a problem that you had on Hills Drive, where people will put two wheels on the hump and two wheels off the hump, and it kind of defeats the purpose.
So, you know, as you move forward with traffic questions, I'd like to assign traffic issues to Committeewoman Moreski, who had said that she would want to, well, she would certainly be interested in dealing with traffic issues to the extent it comes up in the future, analogous to a subcommittee. So, you know, it would actually, the preference for tonight would have been to have the reps from Pottersville participate in this discussion. But to the extent those questions do come in, Judy, please coordinate with Renee and the chief for discussions. And Jake, we hope you are taking really good notes. And if you need to talk to Paul or the chief, or you're looking for any of that data that Paul was mentioned earlier about the speed as it's recorded on Black River Road, it's something that certainly you and Paul and the chief can discuss offline. Since this is still part of public comment, once again, let's wrap up with the Township Committee and then open it up for the public since we know.
I had a question for Chief. Chief, do we have on the schedule an officer going on a daily basis or thereabouts to out to Pottersville? Because I know that if I lived in Pottersville, that would be a concern if I think people are speeding and there's not an officer around at least once a day. Not to tell me where the officer is, but do they periodically make a stop in Pottersville almost daily or every other day or something?
Depending on the manpower strength or man-woman strength of the shift, yeah, people, you know, my officers are expected to, you know, show that the Bedminster Police are within the township. So we don't have, you know, at this hour you have to go to this certain location. You know, if you just drive through on a routine patrol, there's no recording of it. But if you set up and run a structured traffic detail, or you perform a business check or a residential check or whatever you might do, you know, that you pull an entry for it. So you kind of, you know, per se get credit that you weren't just driving around aimlessly. So, I mean,
Okay.
you know, there's certain, we get complaints, we respond to them, and, you know, we'll say, okay, for the month of July, we're going to go sit on Schley Mountain Road. And, you know, the composition of the road has a factor on, you know, traffic enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I don't want to show my hand to our tactics, but, you know, I can't specifically say that on every single day or, you know, at least a portion of the night, daylight or evening time, that a patrol car doesn't go past your road.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm just curious if like the officers are expected to be patrolling Pottersville, you know, often, so that the residents do
Oh,
feel like
they're up
there's a
there.
presence there.
No, they're definitely up there. I mean, we also have the interior back roads. You see the police cars when they come past your house. They're, you know, covered with, you know, dust. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
we're out there patrolling. So,
Yeah, so that being said, you know, if I was sitting on my front porch and I was watching all the cars pull off of 206, cutting down Old Dutch Road to Peapack Road, I would feel like they were going 50 miles an hour, but that would be my perception, not the actual data. So thank you very much for giving us the data, because while we don't want to look for problems, we want to look for solutions to problems, but the data is very helpful in seeing that there's not anything too excessive in addition to regular traffic patterns, right? Is that what I'm understanding that your data is saying?
yeah. But I mean, just like the average is the average,
The
right?
average.
But there's always somebody, you're on the interstate, somebody passes you like you're standing still and you're traveling at 70. It does
Right.
happen, but it's, you know, it's like anything else. It's a matter of opportunity.
Right. But the average, the data is saying that the traffic patterns are average in that area. So then what we're hearing is that it's excessive, and the residents of Pottersville are thinking it's excessive, but the data is actually saying that it's average traffic patterns. So while it's great to come up with a ton of solutions, perhaps the signs that we have up there are the best solution, and maybe there isn't as big of a problem as is being perceived. So thank you for the data.
You're welcome.
Any other members of the Township Committee with questions for Paul or for Chief? Okay, let's
But
open it
I'm
up.
sure I will.
Let's open it up for public comments. So we've got 2 members of the public.
Got nothing.
Nothing. Okay, Chief and Engineer Ferraro, thank you very much. Certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
I will let you enjoy it yourself. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
See you,
Thank you,
Paul.
Paul. Okay, may
Good
we
evening.
please
See you, Chief.
have the administrator's report?
I did not provide a written report because what I have to tell you is hot off the presses this afternoon. I know there's been some discussion about potential extension of the grace period for our third quarter estimated tax bills. As the mayor indicated at the last meeting, we had been waiting for guidance from DLGS, which is required if you're going to extend the grace period. We did not receive it last week. But I thought it would be very timely to give you a bit of an update and report on where's Bedminster as far as the collection of our revenue with our taxes. As of this afternoon at 4 o'clock, for the third quarter, we were at 83.64% collected, which is excellent. And that does not include approximately another $200,000 in property taxes from various banking institutions that had not been yet tabulated. So that would approximately bring us up to another 5%. So that would bring us up to about 88% collected as of today. Our grace period goes until the 10th, which is next Monday. So we will be continue tabulating, but that indicates we're not behind with our revenue. Also today we received our second installment of state aid in an electronic transfer directly into our account, which is right on schedule, was not delayed, right on time. So
Good.
things look good as far as our revenue goes.
You know, what I find interesting about the state's perspective on extending the grace period for the third quarter is so while we sit at roughly around 88% of collected taxes for third quarter, the folks who may need that additional time, that additional 20 days for the extended grace period, they may be in the single digits of percentiles, right? So there may just be 4% that, you know, the COVID crisis has hit badly in their jobs. You know, they may be taking a different job, they may be taking on something else, but it creates a problem for, you know, maybe a small group. And to some extent, I would almost think that local government services would say, okay, that's almost more incentive if you are at or close to your normal payment, that you then have the luxury of extending the grace period for those who may need it. My perspective, obviously DLGS, Division of Department of Local Government Services, takes a different approach. Just my observation. All right, so thank you, Judy. Anything else from the administrator?
Just real quick, we have been fully open at Town Hall and the court offices and the police main office since June 20th. If you haven't been in to see our new setup with our barricades built by Mr. Mance, they're beautiful. They look like they were there from day one, and they were custom built, and they were custom built. We have had residents coming in daily without any issues. Everyone wears masks. We have social distancing placards on the floor. We have barricades and areas set up for people to wait. So we are able to handle 3 people at a time, 1 at each counter. We've had people pretty much make appointments to come in to do such things as a marriage license or get notary service or have a quick meeting with the zoning officer. They call up and make appointments. The majority of people have been still using our drop boxes out in front of the building. We have a drop box on the side of the building. We have a larger one, paper box on the ground for larger applications that might go to construction or land use board. And then we also even have a lockbox in the lobby. Rather than coming up to the window, you can just put it in the box in the lobby, and a lot of people come in, put it in the box in the lobby, and turn around and leave. So, you know, we really haven't had any issues. Things are going very smoothly. We're still having virtual court. Tomorrow will be virtual court, where we don't actually have members of the public in the building. The judge and the court staff do a Zoom meeting, usually from the courtroom, and then bring in testimony and witnesses and attorneys and defendants, you know, all through Zoom. And it's been working great. So just a little update of how things are going. All the employees, when they come in the morning, they take their temperature. We wear masks when we're in the common areas, as do the public, and sanitize as much as we can in between, and it's been going very well.
Great. Thank you, Judy. And well done in implementation. Discussion on introduced ordinances. We have none. Introduction of ordinances. We have none. Public hearing of ordinances. We have none. Consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda, unless there's a request to pull any of those items for individual consideration. Hearing none, may we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
We have 3 resolutions that are not on the consent agenda. The first one is Resolution 2020-072, authorizing the appointment of a permanent electric subcode official. Ms. Sullivan.
Mr. Robert Vandenberg, who is currently the electrical subcode official in Reddington, came to us after the retirement of Glenn Hartzler, had been our electric subcode. He retired April 1. Mr. Vandenberg came to us at that time, has been he's been our probationary electric subcode. The practice is 60-day probation, and at the end of 60 days, there's a review to see if there's any issues or concerns, and there are not. He's been working out wonderfully, fit in with the Bedminster family here very easily, and is learning his way around town pretty quickly. So it's a recommendation of the code official that we bring Mr. Vandenberg on officially and permanently. So.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments for Ms. Sullivan or regarding this resolution? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Moreski?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. Resolution 2020-074, appointing a new member to the Recreation Committee due to the resignation of a current member. And instead of Ms. Sullivan, Committeewoman Fernandez.
Yes. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Frank Pascali, we'd like to appoint him to the Rec Committee. All in favor, say aye.
Well, we have to move some other people around, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We had the resignation of Parks. Right.
So Park is resigning. He was seat 5. Tony Rodriguez will move from alternate 1 to seat 5, and Shauna Crane will move from alternate 2 position to 1 position, and Frank Pascali, who's a resident in Long Meadow Road, will move to alternate number 2 position. And Gina speaks very highly of Mr. Pascali, and that's enough for me. So Gina, your endorsement takes it through. So we need a motion to approve.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye, and can I also add, let's recognize the contributions of Park Smith. He was on since 2016. Doug and I have had the opportunity to work with him along with Gina, and he's been a great contributor, and he will be missed. Sorry, didn't mean to interject, but I just want to throw that out.
I agree. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Park.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
So that brings us to Resolution 2020-076. This resolution would classify Bedminster Charities as a Class 3 organization for purposes of the Joint Insurance Fund. Ms. Sullivan, what does all that mean?
So this came up at our Bedminster Charities meeting the other night. Craig Sutherland, who happens to be on the executive board of Bedminster Charities representing Jacobus Vanderveer House, is also happens to be our risk manager with our joint insurance fund. Now, not that that's a conflict in any way, but he made the comment at our Fall Fest meeting the other night that we should really have a resolution recognizing support by the Township Committee of the Bedminster Charities Organization and the events that they have throughout the year. We really only have usually one event, but if there were other events, just that they're usually held on township property and that the Township Committee supports them, and they would be recognized as a Class 3, a Class 3, a quasi-entity, a Class 3 quasi-entity that would allow them to be an additional insured on our GIF policy because they're using our property. This is something we have done years ago, but it hasn't been done in a resolution recently. And Mr. Sutherland reminded me that this was something, just some housekeeping that we need to do. So that's why you have the resolution in front of you. And this would be then sent to the GIF, who would then formally add them as they have done before.
So is Bedminster Charities a separate entity?
It is a separate entity. The recommendation is because they're using township property for their events, there should be a letter of support from the township committee that this is appropriate use of our property, that it is supported by the township committee, and the events are supported by the township.
Okay.
Like it's a partnership for their event.
So we have the affiliation of the 7 charities, form Bedminster Charities,
Correct.
and working through and with the township. So that gives them the protection for any event that may happen.
Correct.
During one of their activities.
Right.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Ms. Sullivan regarding this resolution?
Is that something that needs to be renewed every year, like with our insurance policies?
So Mr. Bellardo will tell you that a resolution is normally only valid for a 1-year period. As I said, we have done a resolution of support for Bedminster Charities in the past. We have not done it in the past few years, and Mr. Sutherland brought that to our attention the other night at our meeting to say, hey, we need to do one again. We haven't done one in a while. So you will now probably see this on the agenda annually.
And
Okay.
so to make the distinction between farmers market and any other organization that is run through the town doesn't need that determination of a classification because it is an instrument of the town. This is a little bit different because of the way Bedminster Charities is constructed with those other organizations.
Right.
Any further questions for Ms. Sullivan? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve resolution 2020-076?
So moved.
Second.
One last roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson? Mr. Stevenson? I lost him.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Foreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
There is one more roll call vote, which is the approval of the bill list. May we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Foreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Please come and sign your purchase orders and your bill list.
And your bill list.
Thank you.
Discussion items. Any item that any township committee members want to put up for discussion and or public input? Seeing none, new business. Any township committee member have new business? Old business. COVID-19, we discussed numbers, discussed what the township is doing. Short-term rentals, let's get that for now. Engine braking, let's put that off. There's gonna be no action on this for a little bit. Pluckman Park, I take it unless we have an update from Mr. Haggerty on any repairs or status of repairs over at Pluckman's Park, which I presume we probably do not have today. Let's get to JCP&L outages.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give you a quick report. We have had 2 outages in the last several days, one on Thursday evening, which impacted Pinevale and Stone Edge, which are adjacent to Washington Valley Road. Cause of that was a downed wire on Washington Valley Road near Coriel Drive. And then early Friday morning, we had a lightning strike hit a pole at the Greater Crossroads substation that took down about 1,800 folks, the majority of which were restored by 9 a.m. I mention these only because we're always taking a look at them and making sure we don't have systemic problems like we experienced last year in the hills. So we get reports from Carol Bianchi, our rep. We take a look at them, see if there's any common causes of those. So far, these seem to be acts of God and acts of nature. So, and by the way, speaking of that, obviously we have a major event coming up tomorrow. There's a significant amount of storm prep that's been going on. JCP&L has been keeping us apprised. And as we always say, tell everybody, call 1-888-LIGHTS with an extra S if your power goes out, because JCP&L doesn't necessarily know until you call them. That's all I have on JCP&L.
Great, thank you. New Jersey American water rate increase. This is the litigation intervening in the rate increase proposed by New Jersey American Water. Either Committeeman Hickey or Ms. Sullivan, if you have an update.
I did get a call today from Hillsborough, just confirming our decision from the last meeting regarding their, I'll call it a proposal. Their administrator is meeting with them next week and will bring it back to them and may suggest that they reconsider joining us. So he'll get back to me next week.
Okay.
But right now there's no, haven't heard from any other of the other towns either. So we're right now status quo.
In terms of legal proceedings, there's really no update. Discovering has proceeded according to schedule.
Now, on a substantive note for New Jersey American Water, I received an email, actually a text from a resident advising that a broken water line, well, a water line is broken 4 times on Riverwood, and it just keeps getting a sloppy patch by New Jersey American, and a request was made, is there something that the township can do to give a little push to water company to install a more permanent repair. So Colin, Judy, I'm not sure if you guys have any ideas, or Judy, if we have a NJAW contact that
We do.
Okay, if you could give that name over to Mr. Hickey, and Colin, if you need details on that, I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Perfect. Will do. Thank you.
Which brings us to Township Committee comments. Quick reminder, we do have an executive session. So after we adjourn from the public portion of this meeting, we will convene an executive session. We will not be returning to public session. So this is essentially after we finish public comments, we will adjourn the public portion. Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment about an hour or so before our meeting tonight. I received an article on the patch where one of those articles came around from Niche, N-I-C-H-E, Niche. And we were ranked as an A+ community to live in. So that was great to read, great to see. Some of our neighbors as well were ranked A+. So again, just, you know, it's nice to see the recognition out there. But that's really all I've got. I can tell you that the storm is coming. It's here upon me here and a little bit south of where you are, but I don't know what the weather's like up there now, but the storm is coming. I hope everybody is safe tomorrow, and you know, don't go out and then drive unnecessarily because the weather's going to be very, very poor.
Is that good for the crabs or bad for the crabs?
It's good for those who are looking to catch the crabs.
Good, good. Well, catch some not tomorrow, but on Wednesday or Thursday.
That's right.
Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. You know what? I'm going to yield my time to Miss Ray because maybe she can provide some clarification on the after-school programs, if you don't mind. Robin, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So going forward, I received word from Jen Giordano that all after-school programs through December 31st and weekends were canceled.
And the reason being, actually, it's the point is 6:30 is the time frame. However, after school time frame from 3:30 to 6:30 is going to be looked at going forward, due to the fact they do not want to have people from outside our geographical area entering the school building, which makes sense. And that's what we've tried to do at camp as well. We don't allow anybody from the outside. So I completely understand.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rec Director Ray. Colin, anything further?
That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor. Oh, you know what? Actually, just to dovetail with Doug's comments. Not only did we get an A+, we actually even moved up 10 steps. I think we were rated number 31 in New Jersey last year. We're now at number 21. So made a jump 10 full points. That's awesome. So
Right.
want to throw that out. Thank you.
Committeewoman Mareski.
Good evening, everybody. Just a quick shout out to all of those of you, especially Colin and the mayor and Robin, who come out every Saturday morning to help with the farmers market. It's a great time and look forward to seeing everybody there. And just a quick thing, I'm not surprised our town has jumped up because it's the best town in the state. Have a great night.
Committeewoman Fernandez, who may be responsible for the jump from 31 to 20.
I highly doubt that, but to me, it's number one. So that's just, you know, my personal opinion. No, yeah, I just wanted to once again reiterate thank you to Park Smith for all of his years of service on the rec committee. Congratulations to Frank Pascali for coming on board. We look forward to developing new programs and all of his exciting energy. And that is all for right now. Everybody be safe with this hurricane, and I hope to see many, many residents on August 27th for our drive-in movie night.
Great. Thank you. I just want to do a quick shout out. On Saturday evening, the Pottersville Fire Company did a fundraiser at the Burnt Mills Cider Company on Route 206. I got there a little late, but I did see former Mayor Parker in attendance. I saw Robin Ray, and I saw Committeeman Hickey, and a whole lot of other folks out there. So obviously, the Pottersville Fire Company was not in position to run their annual antique show, which is sorely missed. But it was great to see the folks from the fire company out trying to raise money with a barbecue over at the cider company. So it was good to see, you know, those connections being made. Pottersville looking for an opportunity to run the fundraiser and to do so at the start of a new business opening up in town. So it was a very well attended. Cars parked all the way down to really to 206. So just great to see a lot of folks out there, and I'm not sure how they did. Certainly, my guess is they didn't do as well as they do with the antique show and dinners, but it was great to see them out there. So well done by Pottersville. And just, you know, just to remark that it's August and it's crazy, right? I mean, we're still doing this and there's no end in sight. So it's working. So thank you all for your participation and helping Township to run even as we meet remotely. Once again, we do have an executive session. So may we have a motion to adjourn the public session?
So moved.
Reconvene in executive. Committeewoman Fernandez made that motion. We need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See you on the other Zoom meeting. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.
Not all.